What's up, guys? Welcome back to the shop. In today's video we're going to be making a DIY file guide. Just pretty much what I've been using in the shop over the last probably like a year and a half. I was asked to make one so you guys can see how it's made. This is the one I use. It's pretty worn out and pretty old, but it's a really simple build, so you guys can make your own at home. These guys come in handy with certain little spots you want to get straight whenever you're hitting it with the file. So that's primarily what I use it for. You see these little nicks is because I use it on the belt grinder as well. But since I don't have carbide to put carbide on them, these are without carbide. Obviously, if they were with carbide, I'd be able to, put on a knife and just go up to it. But even as hardened steel, the belt grinder is still gonna, shred away at it. So I'm gonna show you how to do this, which is pretty simple. Here I got some 1084. This is 1/8 inch steel. For this one I use 1/4 inch, which kind of makes it a little bit heavier than I would want. But I'm going to try it with 8 inch. That way I have a thinner one in case I want to use a thinner one for certain things. And I'm going to test out to see if this works as well as this. Regardless, the same principles are used to make it pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. Let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this piece of, this is 6 inches by 1.5. This is, these are also 3-inch pieces by 1.5. So I'm just going to cut this in half to have 2 equal pieces, and then we're going to go on ahead and put it all together. Let's get started. Alright, so both my pieces are cut. They're about the same. Next thing I'm going to do is start prepping for drilling the holes. First thing I'm going to do is put it with some clamps. Try to clamp them as evenly as I can, so we get nice straight holes, nice symmetrical holes. Alrighty. Originally, the first time when I did this by welding the 2 pieces together, but I think it's better if I just clamp them together and just drill the first hole, and then I just bolt them together, and we avoid having to use any welding for this for anybody who doesn't have a welding machine or doesn't know how to weld. So I think that'd be the better bet this time. Alright guys, so what I'm using is a 1/4 by 20 bit, the one that already, it's a tap and drill bit, drill and tap bit. Well, pretty much it taps the hole that you're drilling. This is the best thing you can use for this because it just makes life easier. So I'm going to be using this. So if you have a chance to buy this, it's a couple bucks. Definitely worth it. Definitely worth the investment. And I'm going to be using 1/4 by 20 bolts. For this guy, I used the socket bolts. But for this one, I'm going to be using regular hex bolts because I think it's easier just to grab a hex key or an adjustable wrench and twist it than having to look for this one Allen key that I have somewhere that I have one of, and if I can't find it, I'm screwed. So I'm going to be using this instead. Makes life easier. Alright, so I forgot to mark it, so I'm going to mark it right here. I'm going to be doing 3/4 by 1/4 in. So that's where our hole is going to be. Right on the edge gives me 2 1/4 on the inside roughly space, which for most knives, especially smaller ones, it's plenty. If you want to go bigger, you could always, instead of using 3-inch piece, you can use a 4-inch piece, and that way you have a little bit more space. Normally on my knives, I'll show you after I drill. After I drill the holes, I'll show you roughly how I use them on my knives. Alright, so I got both pieces that are drilled out the same. I'm going to take this top layer and I'm going to open up the holes a little bit because I don't want the thread binding onto the actual screw. I want this guy to be free floating while this guy is the one that's going to hold everything together. That way it gets real nice and tight. If not, you get something in between. The thread on one side binds it to where it's at and you can't tighten it. So we need one of these free floating. So I'm going to be using this one, the one that's going to be pulled together by the head of the bolt. So we're going to take it and we'll be using this drill bit, which I have no idea what it's called, but I'm going to be using it to widen up the hole. If you know what it's called, let me know in the comments because I don't know what they're called. But yeah, I'm going to just use it on each one to open up the hole a little bit, just enough for the bolt to just pass right through it. So that worked out pretty nice. You can use either one of these, which comes in handy to have one of these, I'm going to be honest. Got it Harbor Freight, they're fairly not that bad. Packet 3 is like 30 bucks with different size, 3 different types. Pretty much these 3. And they go up to 3/4, a 1/2 inch, and this one's also 1/2 inch. And they just come in handy, especially when you don't know what size you need. You could either use this or you can use a 1/4 inch drill bit. I think that's roughly what this guy drilled, about 1/4 to 5/32 around there. I'm not sure, but either will work. That way this guy's completely free floating. Here I have a knife that I never finished, ADCR V2's 8-inch chef's knife. I mean, I've already ground on it, but we're gonna go on ahead and I'm gonna show you how this is used. Now I'm not sure if these bolts are gonna work with it, so I have 1-inch bolts because this is thinner material than this. It's I don't know if that's gonna be enough space or not. We're gonna test it out. Now we'll switch over to the 1-inch bolts. It's one of the things I don't like about these kinds of bolts. Sometimes they don't, yeah, that's way too much. Because they don't thread them all the way, they're kind of not that good for this. That's no big deal. We'll just switch over to 1-inch bolts that are fully threaded and we're good to go. Alright, and so the reason why this is just 3 inches and not bigger, you can make them wider as you like, but it's because normally I'm just passing the tang through there. Yep. And I'll take it and I'll put it roughly where it needs to go. That's how I'm gonna grind like that. And I use it as a guide. And if you use it as a guide like that, you're just gonna, well, obviously tighten it so it doesn't move. And you're just gonna go up to the grinder and you're gonna bump the side. You're just gonna bump up to the side of the platen. And you should be hitting that aluminum siding right there. So, or metal siding. And you should be good to go. And it shouldn't really eat up at it, and it helps you guide your plunge lines pretty good. And if not, you can use it for doing file work, especially when you're doing file work on like shoulders of a knife. So if I'm going to be doing file work for shoulders on a knife, for example, let's say I find out where I want my shoulders, go on ahead and mark it, put it on there. This is for a hidden tang knife. Put it roughly, you know, straight however I wanted, and then I'll just go on with a file and I'll clean it up and make sure I have a nice straight shoulder so that whatever material I'm putting for my hidden tang meets right up to it. I don't think I have a hidden tang to show you with a hidden tang that's ready, but pretty much use it for that. But it's softened right now, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go on ahead and harden the steel. And that's just gonna be like any other knife that you make. You're just gonna slap it into the forge, heat it up, and harden it. And I don't do a temper cycle along with it. I just harden them and I leave them hardened. That way the files just skate on them and don't actually eat into it. Alright, so I got them clamped together right here in this vise, and we're just gonna let it cool down. all they're nice and straight when we're done. All right, guys, so the pieces have cooled down. I wiped them down with a rag. Now I'm going to give them a clean on the wire wheel. So pretty much that's it, guys. The pieces are hardened and we're good to go. Let's go ahead and actually let's do a quick file test. Here's the file. Just skates on it. It's not taking off material. That's what we want. That way it takes away material from the knife, especially when we're trying to do, like, you know, nice clean edges and stuff like that. Not on the edge core sand belts. Those belts are going to shred the crap out of this regardless. Here I found an old knife that I was working on a few months back. It's a Damascus, I believe. Some kind of Damascus with a copper core in it. It was part of another set. The other set kind of messed up on me, so I didn't ever get to doing this one. We're going to use it to true up the shoulders. I'm going to show you how we do it. Alright, so I'm going to take a speed square and put it on the spine of the knife and square up my line to the spine of the knife. And just scribe a line real quick. That's the line that I'm going to be putting my guide on. So I got it on the line roughly where I want it. Now I'm going to take an adjustable crescent. And I'm just going to tighten it up. And now I'm going to hit it with the file so we're nice and flush. So now I got a nice clean crisp line that I put my bolster, spacer, whatever I'm going to put up front up to it. I'll also use it like this, and like I said, I'll bump it up to it to be able to do my plunge grinds. And if you want to see me finish off this knife and handle it, let me know in the comments down below and I'll do that soon. So that's it for this build. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward build. It's pretty cost effective because if you buy a non-carbide one, which will essentially do the same thing, I don't even know if they sell non-carbide. If they do, it's up there. And if you buy the carbide one, I don't think I've seen them for under $100 lately, or you know, in the 90s and up range. So this is a quick method to be able to get that done. You cannot use it on a grinder. It will eat up at it. It will definitely grind into the steel, but a file won't be able to touch it, and it works pretty good. So if you like the video and you find some use in this, be sure to give me a like and a follow if you're not following, which I don't know why you wouldn't be subscribed. But all right, guys, thank you very much for watching. I greatly appreciate y'all, and I'll catch you on the next one.